What an insane week of football. Oh my gosh. There is literally so much to talk to. But today, we're going to have a great episode. We're going to be talking week 2, straight cash and just trash, and also Monday Night Football Madness. It's going to be a great pod. Let's get straight to it.
Welcome to the FantasyLand Football Podcast.
All right. Here we are. It is Monday, the 21st of September. I am Zach, a co-host here. This is Badaki, our other co-host. Badaki, how are you doing?
I don't know how to feel, to be honest. I'm a bit sad. My emotions are still all over the place from yesterday. Yeah.
If you don't know, and it's your first time listening, Badaki is a massive New York Football Giants fan.
That's
and
right.
Had Saquon in one of his leagues. Obviously, sad day.
It's a sad day. I don't know how to explain it. I don't have words for it. I'm just shocked in disbelief. I thought he would be a guy that would never get hurt. He looked invincible. Clearly he's not.
Yeah, and it was also a little strange because there was two plays before, it felt like it could be a really bad injury.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, okay, no. He's good. Like, he's straight, all good. And then 2 plays later, you're like, oh my gosh, this is worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Man, what a crazy game last night as well. Sunday Night Football was insane. Cam versus Russ. Wow. I mean, what is there to say about this game other than pure insanity?
Crazy.
The game came down to literally, 2 or 3 seconds left on the clock. Cam Newton was on the 3-yard line, did his signature quarterback rush.
Classic.
And Seattle stopped him. I mean, that is the kind of game I want to see on a Sunday night, every Sunday night.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a great game. It was a great game to watch. I think that Cam did great. And I saw a tweet that somebody put out here. They said, why did all these teams let Cam Newton sit at home for however long he did?
Yeah, totally.
It was crazy. Great game.
The scary thing is that I think they might be better with Cam Newton than Tom Brady.
They just open up so many more doors. He's a mobile quarterback. He's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, he can take the hit. It's not like Tom. Once Tom's hurt, it's just like, you're done.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Crazy game. Lots of fantasy relevant players that went off. You got Cam, you got Russ, both quarterbacks. Whoever you started, you're feeling really happy. Julian Edelman. We're going to talk about these guys a little bit more. Obviously, they went off. Carson had a good game. Both of the wide receivers for Seattle, DK and Lockett, had really solid fantasy outputs. Yeah. Russell Wilson. People keep saying, and we've even said it, are they going to let him cook? Are they going to let the boy cook? Look, they're not letting him cook. He is the head chef. Put some respect on my boy's name. He put some respect on the name, bro.
Yes, chef.
It's yes, chef. It's yes, chef. What can I do for you, chef? How can I help, chef? He's not cooking. He is the head chef. Put some respect on the name. But, man, it's going to be fun to see that kind of pan out this year. Hey, if you are joining us, thank you. For the first time, this is the FantasyLand Football Podcast. You can follow us on Instagram at FantasyLand Football, on Twitter at FantasyLand_FB. 2 ways that you can consume, I guess, the pod. One is to watch on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. The other is to listen through any podcast platform that you like: Spotify, Google Pods, Apple Pods. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please drop us a review. That would be awesome. But lots of news, Badaki, from yesterday's games.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, mostly bad news. It was a crazy day, but let's talk need to know news. It's mostly injuries. Obviously, we talked about your boy Saquon. He's out pretty much for the whole year from what it looks like.
Yeah, there's so many injuries that we couldn't even possibly fit them all into this segment. I think we wanted just to highlight a couple guys for you. Like we said, Saquon is likely out for the rest of the year, and then CMC had an ankle injury. Devontae Adams suffered a hamstring injury, and then Jimmy Garoppolo has a high ankle sprain. And then also Raheem Mostert with Jimmy, I think he has a high ankle sprain as well.
I think it's a knee. I think it's a knee thing, MCL.
Is it knee? Yeah, so it's a knee. I think he could
Honestly,
be out for a couple weeks.
There were so many injuries yesterday. It is so hard to keep up with. If you have, how do I make this as simple as possible? Do you play fantasy? Then you've probably got an injured player.
Actually,
it's
that's
sad.
so true.
It's actually really sad. But it happens. This is football. I think we expected this to happen, especially with the weird offseason. Hoping and believing that CMC and Adams will be back week 3.
Yeah.
Obviously, these other guys will be out for a while, from what it sounds like. I mean, what can you do with injuries, man? All you can really do is just pray.
Yeah, actually,
you gotta believe in something.
You have to believe. Next man up. That's really the case. I wish football can just be where they can play a whole season and no one gets hurt.
Yeah.
Imagine if everyone was completely healthy every single game they were in their full capacity to play every game.
That would be really cool. I mean, every year there's always a player on your team that is key and he goes down. This year seems to be more than normal, but that, we could not give you all the injuries out there. There's a lot.
Yeah.
But those were kind of the key ones we wanted to let you know about. We'll keep you updated on Need to Know news in the next pod. On to our favorite segment, pretty much of the podcast so far. It's definitely our favorite segment.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's straight cash and just trash. We're going to tell you who was straight cash yesterday and who was just trash. Who had those games that popped off and maybe you expected it, maybe you didn't. Or who was kind of just average, didn't really live up to expectations, and you probably started them and don't feel great about it. So let's start with cash players. Badaki, we're going to start with quarterbacks. Who were the cash quarterbacks of the week?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, there was a couple great games yesterday, but not the number one quarterback, but one of the guys on the list is Josh Allen, 400.
I think he did finish. Did
he finish number one? Is he number one?
He did.
For some reason, I was going to say Dak, but oh well. Which is crazy, which is also on the list. Anyways, Josh Allen, 417 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, 44.48 fantasy points in PPR. He had a monster game against the Miami Dolphins. Dak Prescott, 450 yards, 1 passing touchdown, and then he rushed for 3 touchdowns himself. 43 points.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. What a comeback from Dak and the boys there. As much as I hate it, but yeah, it doesn't make any sense. The onside kick. Dude,
I texted our group chat for the league that's we kind of talk about it in this podcast, the Fellowship of the Fantasy Ring. I texted that league and I said, I'm a Washington fan. And I said, I love watching the Cowboys just, do what they do best and just, not really perform how they should be performing. As soon as I said that, it was like some bad juju and they flipped the switch and everything went well for them. That onside kick, what were the Falcons players thinking? Why did no one jump on the ball? They just stared at it.
He stared at it. I don't know who it was. I want to say it's Hayden Hurst that was there that stared at it. Or a guy that just had long hair that looked like Hayden Hurst from behind. But he watched the ball roll past him and didn't pick it up. He must have gotten confused. What I've heard was that he thought that he couldn't touch the ball past a certain point or before a certain point. So he was waiting for it to pass and then touch the ball, which it was literally right in front of him. He could have bent down and picked it up.
Look, whoever it was, you have to know that rule. you play professional
teams.
Football.
Honestly.
If it was Hayden Hurst, he had a really great day as a tight end, so I forgive him. I actually have him in every single league. Yeah. So you got to forgive the boy. Had a great fantasy output. Our other cash quarterback, we got Josh Allen, Dak Prescott, both went crazy. Russell Wilson from Sunday Night Football, we just talked about him. He went crazy, put up 5 touchdowns, had a really good rushing performance as well. 5 carries, 39 yards.
Yeah.
He put up 43.42 fantasy points. By the way, for quarterbacks in our league, we do 6-point touchdown for passes. We don't do 4-point touchdown. We don't think it makes any sense to do it that way personally, but Russ was crazy.
Yeah, Russ did well. What a game for Russ. I think that he could continue this. He really could continue this. It looks like Pete Carroll is definitely letting him loose. Even in that 4th down, he threw the ball. He threw the ball in that 4th down, and I think he's going to continue to have free range with his offense for sure.
Which is cool. Really cool to see. Yeah. I am excited to see Russell Wilson the rest of this year. I got him in a trade, and I wasn't hyped about it, but I'm pretty excited now. I mean, I was actually, sometimes that's just a luck of the draw in fantasy. You know, it happens. On to cash running backs. Cash running backs of the week, of course. We're going to start with Aaron Jones.
Crazy.
He went crazy. What's his stat line, Badaki?
18 carries, 168 yards, 4 receptions, 68 receiving yards, and 3 total touchdowns. He had 45 fantasy points. It's crazy. He just classic Aaron Jones. Look, a lot of people were skeptical about him coming into this year with the A.J. Dillon draft pick.
We were skeptical.
Yeah,
I remember we did a lot of mock drafts. We were skeptical.
That's right. We did a lot of mock drafts, and every time I got him, I was happy. And then there was days we got close to the draft, I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And now I wish I got him, but it's all right, man. Look, another guy that popped off, Leonard Fournette.
Oh, and I know you're happy about this.
I am happy.
Because you talked about this on podcasts before.
That's right. I think he did great. 12 carries, 103 yards, 2 touchdowns, 27.6 fantasy points. He went off. I think he had more carries than Ronald Jones, if I'm not mistaken. And he
had more total touches. Yeah, and you're right. I mean, pretty much what you predicted would happen is already starting to happen with Leonard Fournette. I personally think even Aaron Jones, I think with Aaron and Leonard, there's going to be a lot of boom games and not, I don't want to say busts because I don't think they will be busts.
No.
But I think there will be a lot of games that you'll be really happy and you'll be a little bit disappointed with.
That's right.
I'd love to see both of these guys go off every game, but I think there's going to be more of a hot versus cold approach.
Exactly. If somebody's trying to offer you Leonard Fournette right now, you can jump on it, but you really have to be careful on who you're giving for him. Yeah. I know a lot of people. I wanted Leonard Fournette. I was trying to get him on the low last week. Just don't buy him too high if you were trying to buy him. And if you're trying to sell him high.
I want to remind people that Leonard Fournette went up against the Carolina Panthers, who gave up the most fantasy points to Josh Jacobs last week.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, some of this is matchup, and that one run he had for a touchdown, yes, it did happen, and we have to recognize it. All I'm saying is just, take your expectations down just a little bit. Cash wide receivers. Let's start off with cash wide receivers here, Badaki. Who is our cash wide receiver? I mean, obviously there's a couple, but
yeah, absolutely.
You start us off.
Look, Calvin Ridley, 7 receptions, 109 yards, 2 touchdowns, back-to-back weeks, 29.9 fantasy points. Calvin Ridley, I mean, he went off. Just classic Calvin.
Yeah.
Stephon Diggs, 8 receptions, 153 yards and a touchdown, 29.3 fantasy points. And then
I want to talk about Ridley. I know we're going to talk about Diggs. Diggs went crazy.
Yeah.
Calvin Ridley. He was dubbed the Chris Godwin of this year. Had a really good week 1. Obviously, he was on this list. He was on the cash list. He is back to back on the straight cash list for us. Obviously, for everyone. Do you buy into this performance? Can you expect this performance on a weekly basis now? Do you think any of Julio's injury had to play part in this? or do you buy into it? Like, are you trading believing he is this guy? How do you feel about him?
I am 100% trading believing that Calvin is a solid number 2. I think if you look at his schedule, he is going against some really good teams or some really decent teams, but it's going to be shootouts. I think he plays the Bears next week, and then after that he has Green Bay, which, like I said, they can both the Bears, they look good obviously with playing the Giants, but obviously they were the Giants, and then they're playing Green Bay, which could be a shootout. So I think these are going to be Calvin is a guy that Matt Ryan is always looking for. People game plan around Julio Jones. Calvin really is going to be open.
Here's the thing. It would be cool to see over the year if people's game plans start to change. As a Calvin Ridley owner, I hope that doesn't happen. However, in the Atlanta offense, you're pretty much in the fantasy dream world, no matter who you have.
Actually,
except for Todd, which we'll talk about, you have Matt Ryan, you're dreaming. You have Calvin, you have Julio, you have Hayden Hurst, you're dreaming. Yeah. And the reason is their defense is not good at all. And they're constantly going to be in shootouts because they can't stop people from scoring.
That's right.
So you're literally in a dream scenario. Anyway, I just wanted to highlight that. But on to Stephon Diggs. 8 catches, 153 yards, 1 touchdown, 29 fantasy points. He went crazy.
He did well. Obviously, if you have a quarterback that's going off, then a receiver has to go off. And today was Stephon Diggs. So, and that's great. I don't know about Stephon Diggs. I would like to see a little bit more consistency. I don't think he went off last week.
He did pretty decent last week. That's the thing. I agree with you because I think as a fantasy community, we all expect him to have boom and bust games because that's all we've known. But at this point, I'm buying into it. I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm buying into it. I think he finishes as at least a top 16 wide receiver. Wow. I'm buying into Stephon Diggs already from what I've seen. I could be wrong.
Yeah, you could be wrong. I think I would personally... It looks like Stephon Diggs is falling to around the Tyler Lockett's, the DK Metcalf's, the... who
even
else?
Further.
Further up,
even
you think?
Further. He's falling. I mean, you mean in rankings or do you mean where he is right now?
Both.
Well, in the draft, he went really late in a lot of drafts.
100%. I think
if you drafted him, you're happy.
Yeah, I think I would rather have those guys, though. I would rather have obviously Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf. I think I would rather have Terry McLaurin over him as well.
Yeah.
But
Diggs will be a hard guy to trade because a lot of people will feel that way. Yeah. So you might just have to hold on to him and hope that it is real.
Yeah, exactly.
On to Julian Edelman. He actually set a career high last night on Sunday Night Football. 179 yards, career high for Julian, which is crazy because he's had such a crazy good career. Yes. To say, I even said on our last podcast, I don't want to trust Julian Edelman with Cam Newton at quarterback. And then as soon as I say that, he goes out and puts up 179 yards, career high with a touchdown. Actually, there wasn't a touchdown, but finished with just under 26 points in fantasy. This is like hard for me to believe. The old
Julian, I think. Like it looks like the Julian that had Tom. It looks like the guy, like he's looking good. He took a couple really hard hits, and he got up like a champ. He says, "I eat those." So, Julian Edelman is somebody that I really like, and I think that he is somebody that I would be comfortable in. Look, Cam is targeting him. Him, and I will want Julian Edelman personally.
Yeah. On to tight ends. These tight ends were cash this week. Tyler, all I do is score touchdowns. Higbee.
All I do.
5 receptions, 54 yards, 3 touchdowns, 28.4 fantasy points. It's a frustrating day if you played against Tyler Higbee.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a frustrating day if you traded Tyler Higbee a couple days before. Somebody did that in our league.
Shout out Daniel Ilioy.
Yeah, and he traded Tyler Higbee.
I'm sorry for your loss.
honestly, to be honest, I would have done the same thing. I would have traded it, even though he didn't do as well. I would have traded. I forgot who he got for.
He
Tyler
got John
Higbee.
Brown. John Brown did well. Here's the thing. I feel bad. It's the worst when you trade a player and then you play against him that week and the player
Absolutely.
just pops off.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Ilioy.
Oh, well, honestly. Mike Gesicki, 8 receptions, 130 yards, and a touchdown,
Wow.
27 fantasy points. Look, I think this guy is a new sleeper, to be honest. It was Blake Jarvin.
Not even a sleeper. Not even a sleeper.
Not even a sleeper. It was Blake Jarvin and then Mike Gesicki. That was
If
my
you have
mindset.
Gesicki and you have another tight end option, you need to be trading one of them because I believe you can rely on Gesicki now.
Wow.
I believe
just don't like his team. I don't like his offense. I like Ryan Fitzpatrick, but I think Ryan Fitzpatrick loves to spread the ball around.
Okay.
But Mike
I think
Gesicki,
there's one condition where I say you can rely on him, and that is that Fitzpatrick is the starting quarterback.
for sure.
If that changes, then it's harder to rely on him.
Yeah. Makes sense.
But those were our cash players. Some honorable mentions. Of course, there was a lot of players who did really well this week, so we can't talk about all of them. Here's some honorable mentions, though. Matt Ryan, 36.5 fantasy points. Cam Newton, we already talked about, had a crazy good game, almost 37 fantasy points.
Yeah.
Kyler at almost 35. Jonnu Smith, big
Huge.
sleeper for a lot
Great
of
one.
people.
That's right.
Yeah.
Trade him
And
away.
24.5 fantasy points. Did you say trade him away?
Yeah, trade him away.
Oh, well, hey, definitely join our next episode. We're going to be talking trade targets. It sounds like Badaki's already got one on his mind.
That's right.
I want to quickly highlight in the honorable mentions Thursday Night Football. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt combined for 50 fantasy points.
Yeah.
And they both had over 20, obviously. Chubb at 26, Hunt at 24. I think if you have Chubb, by the way, was one of our trade for candidates on the episode last week. You're feeling good. If you have Kareem Hunt and you only have him in your flex, you're feeling good. Even if you have him as your RB2, you're kind of feeling good. I do think this game was really great because of the matchup.
Yeah.
But,
Absolutely.
man, on to a couple other honorable mentions. Terry McLaurin, 25.5 fantasy points. And this is the most interesting honorable mention for me.
Yes. I
James
believe so as well.
Robinson,
Wow.
out of Jacksonville. Looks like he's stolen the starting job for the Jaguars. He finishes 16 carries, 102 yards, one touchdown, and a couple catches, 21 fantasy points.
I don't even
Is this
think
going
he
to
stole
continue?
it. Yeah, I think he's going to continue. I don't think he stole it. I think they were trying to figure out who had the starting job. They said Chris Thompson was the number one guy.
Yep.
He really wasn't. I don't think he was. They were just trying to see who was more talented, who really wanted it more, and James did. He got the touch. They gave him the touches, and he broke out. So,
Yeah.
shout out to James Robinson.
I
good luck.
tried to trade him. I picked him up before week 1, just kind of like a, let's give it a prayer type vibe. And he had a good game. He did not have this good of a game, but I tried to sell him off that game high because I did not believe that was going to continue. After this game, I'm feeling a little bit more confident in keeping him as a flex type option.
Yeah.
Week to week based off matchups.
The Jags look good.
Minshew looks
They look
legit.
good. I don't. This is a team I wasn't expecting this team to look like this.
I don't think anyone was, were they?
But I mean, who? Week
Those
3.
are our cash players for week 3. On to the other side, the side that no one's really that excited to talk about, but we have to. Just trash. Who was just trash this week? Let's start at quarterback. Badaki, go ahead.
Yeah, our quarterback Tom Brady. Is he trash?
Yeah, he was. Let me double check the stat. Go ahead.
I was just
These
thinking.
numbers are correct.
I was just thinking because
No,
I was looking.
I think the reason he's here is because he was trash for a fantasy output. He didn't have a trash game, but he only had 10 fantasy points.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So Tom Brady, 217 yards, a touchdown, interception, and a fumble. He only had the 10 fantasy points, like Zach said. I don't even think he had 10 fantasy points. I think I'm looking, double checking the stats.
He did.
All right,
he
10
had just
fantasy
over
points.
10.
Just over 10. Anyways, Tom Brady, he didn't perform as well as everyone thought he did. He did get the 212 passing yards, but it's really the boys that ran the ball, which is their Leonard Fournette.
Yeah.
And
this is what scares me though, is this was a really good matchup for Brady.
Yes.
And he didn't have a great week last week. I don't know. I do not want to rely on Brady at all to start, I think, any week this year. Of course, I will say that with the understanding that Godwin was not there. They need their full team for us to really kind of judge this.
Right.
But if you have Brady, you need to have another quarterback option that you can rely on.
Yeah, for sure.
A good game in real life, just not the kind of fantasy quarterback that you want. So
no, it's not. Tom is not somebody that I personally want. He's not somebody that I'm seeking to get. I think he's more of a bye week guy. But let's move on to running backs. Malcolm Brown, trash running backs. Malcolm Brown.
I don't know why I threw that in there.
Yeah,
Trash.
right. It's all good. 11
Trigger
carries.
trash, kid.
Trigger trash,
What's
kid.
that
Malcolm
from?
Brown. Unlucky for the boy. 11 carries, 47 yards, 4.7 fantasy points. It's not the Malcolm Brown that we saw in week 1.
Yeah,
That's why we said sell him high. You got to sell him high in this opportunity.
Which is crazy as well because Akers went out with an injury.
Yep. Exactly. And then Darrell Henderson came in and he balled out. The Rams just look really strong.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm watching them run the ball, throw the ball, do all these things, and they look like they built, they really.
Yeah, they do. And what's scary for fantasy is in the running back position, there is you would think there's a clear opportunity for a very relevant starter as a running back. However, they run so well as a committee. I don't know that that's going to happen this year. I don't know that we're going to see Akers have a chance to be that guy, or even Brown for that matter. But yeah, Rams are a scary team right now to play.
Absolutely. Todd Gurley, 21 carries, 61 yards, 6.10 fantasy points. He had the carries. He had the opportunity. I think, the game kind of got away from them. They were up for a while. He wasn't able to get anything, but he had no targets.
Yeah, and that's what you're really worried about as a fantasy owner right now, because this was your whole argument if you drafted him, was he's in a high-powered offense who throws a lot. He's going to get those targets again. Right. But we haven't really seen that be the case so far. I'm not saying it's panic mode just yet, but you're not feeling happy if you're a Todd Gurley owner. By the way, if you picked up Peyton Barber off the waiver wire and thought he would do the same thing, I told you, don't do this.
Wow.
I'm a Washington fan. I told you, do not do this on our last pod. And the dude didn't even put up a full fantasy point. Okay. He had 0.1 fantasy points. Look, Barber was wildly inefficient last week, and I said that. And I've heard a lot of other people say he was efficient and he did well and they're going to use him. No, he wasn't efficient. He didn't do well. And it was very clear today that Antonio Gibson is the guy going forward. It was very clear to me. He had all the touches. He had all the opportunity. Yeah. That didn't pan out well because the offense in Washington is not very good just yet.
Yeah,
however, the opportunity is going to be there. I don't think anyone should have Barber on their team after this week. Drop him immediately.
Yeah. Interesting. Peyton Barber. It's so weird how they use him all in week 1 and then just like, what? Who's Peyton Barber? Anyways.
Wait, I don't actually know who that guy is. What? I don't think I've ever... Who? I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, he had 2 touchdowns last week. You don't remember? No.
Yeah.
No, that's all right. Anyways,
shout out to Riverboat Ron, though, for doing what we all wanted him to do.
Yeah, classic.
To actually use Gibson,
Nyheim Hines, 1 reception for 1 target, 4 yards, 1.4 fantasy points.
Wow.
A lot of people have gotten hurt by this guy. You
Oh
either
my
traded
gosh.
for him, you picked him up off of waivers, you've done something to get
Yep.
Nyheim Hines and started him, and he got you not even 1.5 points. And he probably lost because of him, to be honest.
Yeah. And, on our last podcast, we talked about a high risk trade, risky trades. One of those guys was Nyheim Hines.
Yeah.
From last week, and from what the coaches said, and from what we saw in week 1, it looked like Nyheim Hines was going to be a big part of this offense. With that knowledge, we said he is a risky trade, but could pay off. What we all have to keep in mind is we can only use information that we have and make calls from there. Are we going to make wrong calls? Yes, we're going to do that a lot. But hopefully we make more right calls than we make wrong.
That's
Nyheim
right.
Hines, Jonathan Taylor's the guy there. He got 19 carries in 1/2.
Yeah. That's actually crazy. That's Derrick Henry vibes. I think he finished with like 26 carries all in the total of the game, which is close to Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry had 32 last week or something like that.
Yeah.
33. I mean, he's up there. They're giving him the ball. Nyheim Hines, if you got him and traded for him or picked him off the waivers, it could have been a waste, unfortunately, for you guys.
Yeah, unfortunately it probably is from what it looks like. But that happens. On to trash wide receivers who underperformed heavily. There's a lot this week. Julio Jones, what we thought was fantasy proof. 2 receptions, 24 yards, 4.4 fantasy points. He was dealing with the hamstring most of the day. And we talked about this a little bit. We believe that he was pretty much, they didn't tell us this, which sucks, but he was pretty much a decoy out there today, wasn't he?
Yeah, he definitely was. He was dealing with the injury. I think you could have seen it if you were watching the game. You would have seen how he was kind of running his routes, wasn't as strong. But I think that defense game planned around him and game planned around Julio and left these other guys wide open. The Calvin Ridleys, the Hayden Hurst, the Russell Gages. They went off all because Julio was either being double teamed. Their whole defensive scheme was planned around him. So
yeah, if you're a Julio owner, please just we've done this on the last one when there was a trash wide receiver. Right. Take a deep breath in. Take a deep breath out.
He'll be back. Yeah. It's Julio. Let's be honest. It's Julio Jones. It happens every year. One week it's like, man, is Julio? Did they figure out Julio? Are they gonna stop him now?
Yeah.
No way.
Just like you can't overreact from week 1, you can't overreact from week 2 either. However, these Bear wide receivers, it was said there was going to be a great matchup this week for Allen Robinson and Anthony Miller against a pretty average Detroit secondary, but neither did Giant well. Secondary. I mean, Allen Robinson definitely didn't do what you wanted him to do. 3 receptions, 33 yards, just 5 fantasy points. At least he got something. Anthony Miller had 3 targets, 0 catches, laid a big old goose egg.
Unlucky.
Yeah. Honestly.
Just unlucky.
I mean, yeah, if you own these guys, I think Miller, you wait a little bit on him. Allen Robinson, I'm not saying to panic. I'm just saying you're not happy if you drafted him, and I don't think the trade value is going to be very high at the moment.
No, not at all. It's unfortunate for Allen Robinson's owners. I mean, I'm trying to figure out how many times he was targeted right now. I don't know how many times he was targeted. I think it was
5. I think it was 5 if I'm right.
5 in total.
I could be wrong. I think so.
Yeah, they didn't. To be fair, the Bears did run the ball really well. Dave Montgomery, that's probably an audible mention that we didn't go for cash. I think he had like 21 plus fantasy points, which is great. Anyways, let's move on. Receivers, T.Y. Hilton, 3 receptions, 28 yards, 5.8 fantasy points. If you were watching the game, he dropped some wide open touchdowns.
Oh my gosh.
He dropped 2 really significant passes where he was wide open and he could have scored.
Man.
Just unlucky for Ty. I don't know if maybe it's Phillip. Maybe I don't know.
You know what's funny is in two of my biggest leagues, I started in my flex T.Y. Hilton and Naeem Hines in separate leagues.
Oh no!
And I was like, this is a smash matchup. Ty, he's just dropping touchdowns wide open. Like, I'm just frustrated, if I'm honest. Let's move on. I don't want to talk about him. Just no trash. Trigger trash kid.
On that other side of the ball in that game, Adam Thielen, 3 receptions, 31 yards, 6 fantasy points. He did have 8 targets, but that's somebody that also let you down this week in fantasy. And probably one of the biggest letdowns, I probably have to say, is Will Fuller.
Yep.
What the heck was this? He was targeted 10. Was he targeted 10? Yeah, targeted 10 times.
No, he wasn't. He didn't get a single target.
He didn't get a single target.
Nope.
All good. So he wasn't targeted at all. He has 0 fantasy points.
I think, you know what, though? If he had 10 targets and he had 0 receptions, that would be less crazy than him having 0 targets for the entire game. Because he played 63% of the snaps.
People started Will Fuller with confidence. And I think I said in the last podcast. Yeah, you should have. 100% you should have, and you're not wrong for that. And I said in the last podcast, I'm pretty sure it was flipped, where Will Fuller was going to be shut down and either Brandon Cooks or somebody else was going to get these touches. And that's exactly what happened. Will Fuller was shut out. He didn't have a catch. He dropped a goose egg on either your flex or wherever you started him. It's pretty sad there.
It is sad. I want to say something about T.Y. Hilton quickly because I don't think he's a trash person and I don't think he's a bad player. I think I'm just angry and my fantasy day is probably irrelevant to his life. So T.Y., if you ever listen to this, just know that I still love you. And I don't know, the sensitive side of me was like, man, I hope he doesn't ever hear that and be upset. I don't know what's wrong with me. Let's move on to tight ends. These are the trash tight ends for this week, just not good performance. And there's only really one that we can point out, and that's Mark Andrews, which is very surprising. Top 3 tight end for most people. Had 1 reception on 3 targets for 29 yards, 3.9 fantasy points. I think game script had a lot to do with this, but typically you're in a game script with the Ravens where they're up. And what we have to, unfortunately, you're starting Mark Andrews every week, regardless if he's healthy.
Yeah, no doubt.
Or regardless if he's healthy. However, I think there might be games like this just because of the offense. I think there will be games. Hollywood is involved a little bit more. For some reason, they're targeting Snead more. I think you're going to have to take a couple of weeks that will be like this. Because you want those boom weeks that happen more often.
I think that a lot of defenses saw what the Texans did today. Look, even though they lost, I think in the first quarter they played great. I don't think the Ravens really scored until maybe the very end of the first quarter. But JJ Watt, sacked Lamar I think like 3 times in the first quarter. They were going 3 and out, and that can be something that gets this offense found out. But I mean, who knows? Maybe the Texans just had a really great game plan. But yeah, Mark Andrews is somebody that I think a lot of defenses are going to game plan around because that's Lamar's favorite target.
Oh yeah. On to honorable mentions for trash games. Derrick Henry. And he didn't ruin your fantasy day, but he was probably your first pick in fantasy. Had crazy amounts of carries, 25 carries. However, this is not surprising. He wasn't involved in the passing game at all. 0 targets, only 84 yards, 8.4 fantasy points.
Yep.
Unfortunately, because of the offense, not the offense, because of the player Derrick Henry is, you're going to have some weeks like this. Sammy Watkins,
classic.
We've had a lot of people DM us, a lot of close friends talk about Sammy Watkins, and we were very clear with them. At all costs, avoid. Do not let 1 week tell you that Sammy Watkins will be fantasy relevant because we knew this was going to happen. We honestly just knew. I think everyone in fantasy knew, honestly,
Yeah,
that this was going to be the case.
I don't know, man. I don't know. If you started him, unlucky, and you shouldn't. And I hope you listen. I hope you listen to the podcast when we said that.
Do you drop Sammy Watkins, or do you hold on to him?
I would hold if I had the space.
Yeah.
If everyone on my team is good, if I had no injuries, I would hold on to him because I expect him to have another breakout game. And when that breakout game comes, I'm selling him. I'm going to sell him low for somebody that I think is a little bit more valuable.
I love it. This last honorable mention for trash games is near and dear to my heart because I started him with confidence. We already talked about it on the last pod. AJ Green, 13 targets, which is awesome. 3 receptions for 29 yards, 5.9 fantasy points, which is not awesome.
No.
Just a big old RIP for anyone who started AJ Green week 2. However, the targets are very, very juicy. That was our straight cash and just trash segment. Let us know. Did we miss anyone? Did we miss anyone cash? Did we miss anyone trash? Comment or send us a DM and let us know who you think we missed. We are moving on to Monday Night Football madness.
Oh, boy.
We're going to talk about it. It's a juicy, I use that word too much, but it is a juicy matchup for fantasy. We've got the Saints at Raiders. Over-under is 48.5. Is that right? Is that the over-under?
48.5.
Wow.
According to OddsShark, yes.
Okay. That's interesting. I thought it would be under, but Saints. Let's talk about them first.
Yeah.
I have a lot of thoughts on the Raiders, but who are you looking to watch for the Saints? Actually, I'm sorry. Before we even start with that, is there any chance that the Raiders win this game at all? Let's just say that from the very beginning.
Look, I think so. I think so. I didn't get to watch much of the Raiders game last week. I didn't see their full offense in swing. I think that they have a great chance. Obviously, the people that I'm kind of watching is JJ and Derek Carr, but yeah, I think they have a chance. I think it could be a close game, especially with Michael Thomas out.
Okay. Let's talk about the Saints side of the ball. Who are you watching in this game?
Emmanuel Sanders is definitely my number one guy that I'm watching. Can he step into this role? Can he step up into this Michael Thomas role since he's out? I think this is somebody that has to, they're probably going to game plan around, to be honest. And my second guy is Jared Cook, tight end. Jared Cook. I expect Drew to throw to him. I think he'll be wide open in the middle.
Our trade for candidate, Jared Cook, last week?
Our trade for candidate, that's right. Jared Cook, I think he would have a solid game. My projection is probably 90 yards and a touchdown.
I love that.
I think
true.
I think that is something that he's capable of doing. And obviously, the Saints love their number 2 quarterback, Taysom Hill. I don't even know if he's a quarterback. And
is he the number 2 as well? Like if Drew Brees went down tomorrow night, do you think you'd see Taysom Hill in there, or do you think you'd see Jameis Winston?
No, I would put Taysom.
I don't know.
I think so. I think when he was hurt, he stepped. Well, no, I think Teddy came in and stepped up last year.
Can I tell you what I think about Taysom? Because I actually think this is true, and I've thought it for a while. Sean Payton, for the longest time, has said, he'll be a starting quarterback. We think he's a starting quarterback. I don't buy it. I think it's the classic, let's value this guy with words so he doesn't leave us. I honestly,
really,
no hate to anyone, but I don't think Sean Payton actually thinks that this guy is a starting quarterback. Why would they bring in Jameis if they were confident he could be the quarterback too if Drew went down? Because that was a very real question for the Saints this offseason. We need to have a plan if Drew Brees goes down. If they actually believe that Taysom was going to be a starting quarterback after Drew, why even bring in any competition?
Maybe it wasn't the competition. Maybe it was just, let's get some depth. And Jameis right now he was high in the trophy. Yeah, and he was super cheap. I think he did well in college, and they liked that about him. But I think they're going to be getting really creative with Taysom Hill. He's going to be in the slot. He's going to throw. He's going to do something different. Your classic Taysom Hill moves. I think that's somebody also you should be watching on the Saints side of the ball.
Yeah, I still think that it's just a bunch of talk. I don't think so. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Raiders. The only reason I'm going to talk about Derek Carr, I hope he's never in your starting lineup. I mean, watch him go crazy tomorrow.
That's a bit harsh. It's okay, Derek. It's okay.
No, I mean, we love these players. Fantasy is fantasy. I think the only question about Derek Carr is relevant to the other players. Can he maintain? How do you say that word?
Maintain. Can he maintain?
Oh my God. Can he? Can't say the word. Can he maintain?
Yeah, maintain. Can he maintain? Here, I'll start it off and then you finish. Can Derek Carr maintain?
Can he I'm not doing this on purpose. Can he maintain? There we go. Oh, it's hot in here. Can he Can he maintain? Here we go. Can he maintain fantasy relevance for the rest of the Raider players? I think that's the only question you need to ask. Because if you believe in Darren Waller, if you believe in Henry Ruggs this year as a breakout, you need to know if Carr can give them those opportunities to actually break out. So for me, I think he is in a good enough place to allow Waller to do his thing for Ruggs. Ruggs looked really good last week. Yeah. This dude looks really talented. There's a reason they picked him. Did he go number 1 in all the wide receivers? Is that right, or am I making that up?
I think he went number 1. Derek Carr spread the ball a little bit, but I'm pretty sure he did go number 1. I didn't really see much of Brian Edwards.
No, I mean in the draft. Oh, in the draft. Didn't they take him as the number 1 wide receiver? Anyway,
yeah, I think
I'm pretty sure they did. But that's a storyline for me to follow. The coaching staff is in love with Henry Ruggs. I would be in love with him if he got targets because I think he will produce.
Right.
Let's talk about Josh Jacobs for a second. And I don't want to be a downer at all. Uh-oh. I just want to be maybe realistic. Let's be very clear. Let's be very clear. You and I were on the same page with Josh Jacobs going into the draft. We had him as a top 7 running back. A lot of people did not see it that way.
Right.
That's how we felt. We said, no, I think he's going to be a top 7 running back this year. Listen, I could be wrong, but I think we all need to lower our expectations a little bit. Wow. Let's take a step back and lower those expectations. Last week, he went up against the Carolina Panthers. Did they do good this week against the run? Did the Panthers do good? No, they did terrible. They did awful. That's why the Buccaneers won the game. This week, they're going against the Saints. I feel like you got to lower your expectations a little bit. Will he still be a top 10 running back to finish the year? Yes. I think potentially a lot of people have raised him in their eyes because of the week 1 matchup. I'm not a hater. I love JJ. Am I right? Am I wrong? What do you think?
Yes, there's a couple of things that I do agree with. I think you do have to lower your expectations because of his matchup from week 1. But I think you also have to remember that they gave him the ball 25 times last week, and he was pounding the ball. I mean, yeah, he did get 3 touchdowns. I don't think he broke over 100 yards last week. I think he did. Actually, he did in total if you combine his rushing and receiving. But I think that JJ... I think I think it's right. I think you're right. If Derek Carr if he can maintain his fantasy relevance, all these other players will shine. So if he can spread the ball out a little bit more and not put so much pressure onto JJ will shine. But if he can't do that, and then they're only one dimensional with JJ, then maybe then you're right. So I still think
Yeah.
he's gonna be a great running back.
Same. I think so too. But just lower your expectations, I think. Let's talk about Bryan Edwards. I don't want to spend too much time. There's a lot of hype around Bryan Edwards. It was a big name in camp. A lot of people saying he was the best wide receiver there. I feel like at this point, the question is, can he even have a role in this offense with the amount of people they're trying to make relevant? I don't know. I don't think we need to talk about it. I just think it's a storyline to follow. Darren Waller. I love Darren Waller. I think last week, 10.5 fantasy points, didn't make you go crazy, but still a very, very solid tight end option to stream weekly. He's a
Absolutely.
lock. I still love him. I still think he will do well. I don't know what this matchup will look like against the Saints because I feel like they're a great defense, but do not panic on Darren Waller if he has a bad game this week. I want to ask you a question, though. Who ends up with more fantasy points tomorrow, Darren Waller or Jared Cook?
Jared Cook, for sure.
Jared Cook?
Jared Cook.
Okay. I'm on the same page there.
Yeah.
Oh, well, then one last question then to end the episode. If someone asked you right now to trade Darren Waller straight up for Jared Cook, are you taking the Jared Cook side of the deal? Rest of season.
No. I would stay with Darren Waller.
Wow, we got a real synergy here. I feel the same way.
Yeah, I just think that he will be better rest of the season. I think that once Michael Thomas comes back, that those targets from Jared Cook is going to go away. And I think Bryan Edwards was hurt kind of in week 1. He didn't play all the snaps, and Darren Waller was there. So I just think that
I think.
Was it Ruggs?
Yeah, it was.
I don't know.
But it's definitely an interesting storyline to follow. But hey, that is all for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us. Next episode is going to be great. We're going to talk through our league's latest, the Fellowship of the Fantasy Ring. That's our fantasy league, and we kind of take you through a little insight look on it. If you haven't met the guys from our fantasy league yet, you can go to our Instagram. There's a story highlight where you can kind of meet them. We talked about them on our very first and second episodes. We're going to give you an update on our league. We're also going to give you trade targets, trade for and trade away. And of course, as always, we're going to be talking about the Thursday night football matchups, giving you all the details that you need to know. So make sure you've got notifications on or subscribed, however you want to do it. Just make sure you don't miss out. But thank you so much for joining us on the FantasyLand Football Podcast. Make sure that you go to our Instagram page because we are doing giveaways monthly. This month, we are doing a signed Tyreek Hill jersey from Pristine Auction. There is still 1 week from today to sign up for this jersey. Do not miss out on your chance to get a signed jersey from the Cheetah. It looks nice. I just saw it. It got in the mail.
Yeah, it looks clean. You showed me some pictures. Obviously, Zach's in America and I'm in Australia, so I don't get any of the stuff. But, oh well, Tyreek, we're giving it away. Super Bowl champion Tyreek Hill.
That's right. Let us help you. Help me help you by entering this giveaway so we can give you free stuff. But as always, follow us on Instagram at FantasyLand Football, on Twitter at FantasyLand_FB. If you would like to listen to the pod, you can do that on any podcast platform. If you're listening on Apple Pods, please leave us a review. Subscribe to YouTube if you'd like to watch instead, and hit the bell for notifications, and make sure you don't miss our next episode about league latest trade targets and Thursday night football matchups. Monday night football is tonight. I hope you get the W that you are looking for. Whatever you need to happen, I hope it happens. I think someone in our league said, I need Josh Jacobs and Jared Cook to get COVID so they can't play, and I win.
It could have been me.
It could have been you.
It could have been me. I'm playing against Jared Cook and Josh Jacobs, and it looks like I'm going to lose right now because I'm only up by 4 points, but You never know what happens.
You never know. But regardless, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, we will, on the next one, we will see you there.
See you there.
Hey, yeah, you, the one listening to this podcast, you made a good decision today. Keep making those good decisions. You know what? Go ahead and do a little dance right now, like no one's watching. 'Cause you deserve it.